It doesn't matter what world you live in. Monsters live with you. They lurk around the corner and where you aren't looking. And even if you hide from them, they will So what happens if you lock them up? Well, they break out. Welcome to SCP Secret Laboratory, a game created by Hubert Moska in 2017 that evolved from an SCP Containment Breach copy into its own standalone horror experience. It's one of the most fun multiplayer horror games I've ever played. But in recent years the game has seemingly lost its spark. What I used to say was the best SCP game ever has mysteriously lost its spot on my leaderboard. So what happened? Why is this terrifying, funny and brilliant game not the same anymore? Well, let's dive right in. But before that, these videos take ages and a lot of hard work writing scripts, editing and actually playing the games I make videos on. So I highly recommend you subscribe because it motivates me to make more of these videos. And plus, you can always unsubscribe later if these videos don't suit you. The graphics and sound design are very good compared to what they used to be. The game looked terrible in earlier versions, but this was typical of an indie game of this age. The theme really hit hard when they changed it. It was just amazing and I love it. Just listen to it. But with all these new graphics and sound updates, Hubert didn't realise what he was changing, how changing some of these small things changed the atmosphere of the game entirely. I am one of those people who believe if it works, it shouldn't be changed, and I have to talk about the animations. Specifically, the zombie animations were recently changed in 13.0, along with the human animations to give them realistic run cycles, which, yeah, it looks good, but it removes a goofiness from the game. Now, there is a thing about games and its seriousness. Games like CSGO and Insurgent Sandstorms are pretty serious, and so to create this atmosphere they create realistic environments and animations. Meanwhile, games like BattleBit Remastered, Fall Guys and Gang Beasts have less realistic and goofy animations. Now, early in SCP-SL's lifespan, Hubert may have tried to make these animations look as good as possible, but then the animations created a goofy and funny community that just can't be changed now. And now that these new animations are around, I have a feeling the goofiness of the game is just falling apart, and that brings me to my next point. The gameplay of SCP-SL is truly unique, and definitely a bit complicated to get into. This is why I highly recommend the video that explains pretty much everything. But what we should talk about is the gameplay loop. Most of the classes in the game are pretty balanced. The D-class and scientists escape and the SCPs kill everyone. But after that the game kinda doesn't have a goal. There are win conditions, but that's about where it ends. The military classes are flawed just because what their goals are versus how realistic they are to achieve are just way out of whack. Let's first talk about the MTF, whose job it is to save scientists and kill the SCPs. Now, this in theory is a pretty simple task, but normal game conditions make this very hard. Most of the time, all of the scientists are killed off by either the SCPs or D-class before the first or second wave of MTF occurs, which means unless a scientist is alive, you have to kill the SCPs, which in reality normally becomes the sole goal of the MTF. This sometimes works extremely well, as if the MTF stayed coordinated, SCPs can be utterly obliterated.
Kill the dog and kill the things.
Fuck you, computer.
Oh, what the hell?
That was fast.
Time for the dog.
7-3. Contained successfully. Containment unit X-ray 9.
But if not, the gameplay becomes extremely repetitive as you end up walking around hopelessly either on your own or with two buddies before you accidentally look at SCP-096 and get instantly slaughtered. Next, the Chaos Insurgency. Their goal is pretty much the opposite of the MTF, which is to save D-class, and you could optionally work with the SCPs or kill them. Well, the Chaos Insurgency has a low chance of being the first or second spawn wave, so again you barely ever find D-class, and then you're either stuck working with the SCPs or have to kill them, just to find some one camping MTF or scientist. In fact, one of the huge issues is the fact that the Chaos Insurgency is so bored most of the time, they just kill the SCPs, which is super annoying because if the game encouraged this teaming, it'd be an unstoppable machine. Finally, the worst class in the game, the Facility Guard. They have the identical goal of the MTF, but with only 4 people max, and very little equipment. They also spawn in entrance zones, so by the time they find heavy containment, the SCPs have already had time to roam around and find you, so you're pretty much guaranteed to just be murdered.
Is it closed? Alright, I'm having it.
This class and military classes all have the same problem, with making the game repetitive and very heavily dependent on game conditions and the ability of your teammates to make these classes bearable to play. Finally, camping. The game's map has multiple areas where you can just delay the round, you can bunker in and mow people down who try to kill you, especially in Nuke Room, a lot of light containment. A lot of these issues just continue to make the game boring and repetitive as more and more waves spawn just to kill this one or two guys in particular. In earlier years, this repetitiveness was alleviated as the community's comedy, goofiness, and general silly managed to keep the game interesting, and that's probably why I have so many hours in the game. But as the game has moved to a more serious tactical shooter pitch, the community has changed too. There are a lot more sweats and children, which just isn't what I want in a game. Soundboards have always pissed me off personally, but while at first it was just some chilled songs, it's become obnoxious, and even servers are having to put measures in place to try and solve the problems that Northwood needs to solve. Contrary to what I've been complaining about, the solutions mostly sit with the gameplay. The game can manage this community as developed over the years by simply relying on the servers like it's always done. Different servers have always had different communities, and before I go on about how to fix the gameplay, I would really love to talk about the servers I've been on. SCP Breach and Dragon SCP are servers I highly recommend for those who are a mix of serious and tactical with goofy and silly players, but I also recommend Flopper SCP for a more silly but more adultish content. Although I do warn that owner and staff don't take too kindly to younger audiences and degenerates like me, which is why I'm banned. But anyway, finally, although there is probably loads of terrible servers I would highly discourage, Freya's Fortress, it is filled with soundboards. Children have been banned from every other server and just absolute sweat. But everyone has their own preferences, so I do recommend checking out the servers yourself to find which ones you like the most. But let's talk about how to solve these problems. Hey, Editor Hype here. I should iterate, these are suggestions. I am far from a game developer, and I'm sure Hubert has much better ideas than what I have. I would just really like to see these implemented. Anyway, yeah, go back to the video. Alright, camping. Camping is surprisingly easier to fix. The map is mostly endless corridors, and even in those rooms where you can camp, you can easily solve it by having a second entrance, or maybe there's spots to bunker down in much more difficult. For Nuke Room, make it so you have to pay some sort of item to disable the nuke, like use a keycard rather than it just be a button, but that makes it difficult for SCPs, so maybe have it like a limited amount of times it can be reactivated and deactivated. Now, to avoid the gameplay loop of the militant classes, make MTF and Chaos have like subclasses, kind of like how they already have Sergeant, Private, and Captain. Maybe make like an MTF Engineer that can use tools to easily spot the generators and shut down rooms with SCPs in it, or an MTF Medic that can heal or bring teammates back to life at the cost of their medkit, or maybe like a Demolition Expert with 2 grenades instead of 1. This can also be done with Chaos, like an SCP Expert who, when in proximity, can hear the SCPs talk to them, or like a Chaos Signal Expert that has radio that can jam MTF comms, or like a Chaos Surveyor who can look for those camping bastards on the map. These are all suggestions that create goals not only for the team, but for just solid people who don't really want to work in the team, and giving them a goal just for a few of them makes it much more interesting and less repetitive. The guards are still very flawed, and although people want them to remove them entirely, I think they should have more of a supporting role. Like, first of all, having just a bit more equipment like a grenade instead of a flash and a full pack of ammo, but also spawning them at the heavy containment checkpoint. So by the time they're in heavy, the SCPs get more of a feed, and also they have an equivalent understanding of their surroundings as the guards. Also, since the new armory in the checkpoint, maybe have a TV that takes a camera off the room behind the checkpoint, so guards and future classes can see any camping SCPs. This will make it much more easier for guards and MTs to plan their assault and force the SCPs to think more tactically about their approach. As well, make it so guards can have more of an incentive to cuff D-Class instead of killing them. Make it so when they help a D-Class or scientist escape, they upgrade to an MTF or something. But with that out of the way, I do believe Northwood have the ability to fix the game, and I really hope they do, as the game is one of the most favourites out of all time. And I really do hope they really fix the issues, because I love this game. Anyway, thanks for watching.
I'm famous, man. Do you know my last video? My second to last video got 2,000 views. I'm freaking popping off.
Oh wait, shit, on Graph for real? No.
Yeah, no, no,
My-
2.4K on
one of my
Subnautica.
got the
Just-
10K.
Wow.
Look up,
Oh, no, okay.
look up Hype the Fox on YouTube. Just Hype space the Fox. It's my channel.
Search Bonnie WGB. There is one video that I edited because that guy's my friend.
I'm waiting to hear like Hype in as he looks up my channel and goes, ew.
Wait a minute! I fucking knew I recognized your name!
Why? Wait, there's
fucking
no
watched this
fucking way
American
you've
video.
already watched my video. You watched my video! You actually already watched it!
God! I was just like, you sound so familiar!
That's mental!
Oh my god!
That is mental! Oh my god.